Welcome to the AFBA Leadership Talk program, where we aim to inspire effective leadership and promote diversity at corporate leadership level. I am your host, Dr. Roy Bitrus, and with me today are 5 special guests: Ronnie Savage, Jamie Hutton, Carol Stewart, Ollie Falaya, and Yewande Akinola. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the AFBE Leadership Talk program. My name is Dr. Roy Bitrus, and I'm here with Emma Uchechi, who's a co-host, and with 5 fantastic, exceptional guests. In fact, just being in the same room with them makes me so excited. Thank you to everyone who's been able to make it today. If you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the chat group and let us have an authentic conversation. Emma, I think you have made yourself very spotlight. Okay, so I am sorry, I'm just going through this IT issue. I can only see Emma's face on the screen. Okay, Emma, if you can just remove your video because it's only your face that is showing on the screen. Anyway, I'll just start straight away. Thank you to the very special guests who are here. I will call upon them to please introduce themselves and we can kick off from there. Carol, please, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this interesting discussion. So I'm Carol Stewart. I'm an executive career leadership coach and author of the book Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. And I specialise in coaching introverted women who are senior leaders and coach them to lead with confidence, influence and impact. I'm also a 5 times LinkedIn top voice here in the UK.
Thank you very much, Carol. Exceptional. Yewande?
Unmute. Good evening, everybody. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Roy. It's really nice to be part of this conversation. I'm Yewande Akinola. I'm an engineer. My background is in buildings and in construction. I've spent most of my career designing sustainable buildings. I've got a huge interest in innovation and how you come up with solutions that are inclusive of the people that you are designing for, so communities, societies, countries. I'm very interested in education. I sit on the governance team within a few institutions, and really interested to be here and also hear a lot and also share my thoughts.
Thank you very much, Yewande. Exceptional. Ronnie.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, same as Yewande, really. It's a pleasure to join you all this evening. I'm Ronnie Savage. I'm run my own company, so I'm a chartered engineer, a chartered geologist, but I run my company called Jomas Associates, which I founded about 13 years ago. But as many of you who know me will know, I wear a number of hats like Yewande does. So running my business is one, but also championing diversity in engineering and construction is a huge passion of mine. So I sit on the board of charity. I'm also policy chair for construction for all small businesses in the construction space for an organisation called the Federation of Small Businesses. So I represent small businesses to the government with regards to construction policy. And I'm going to keep it at those 2 hats for this evening, but it's a delight to be here.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. Hearing the number of hats that you guys all wear encourages me to wear multiple hats. So I want to be like all of you. Jamie.
Hi, Roy. It's great to be here. I'd like to wear multiple hats as well. I only have a couple. I don't have as many as everybody else here. But I've been in engineering for over 30 years. I specialise in structural engineering. I'm the Vice President of Rebar Design and Detail. And I'm the founder and host of Engineering Success, which is a podcast dedicated to promoting the engineering industry and highlighting amazing people, like the amazing people on this panel and yourself, Roy, to promote it to younger people and more diverse people out there.
Amazing. I must say, I've been privileged to be on Jamie's Engineering Success podcast series. An amazing job you're doing there, Jamie.
Thank you.
And last but not least, our very own Ollie.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure, honor to be here and to be part of this distinguished panel. I lead the Scottish arm of AFB UK and co-founder of AFB UK alongside Nika, who's on the call. I also am the head of process engineering and safety engineering at Optimus Plus here in Aberdeen. And when I'm not doing that, I am a visiting professor to the University of Engineering here at University of Dundee, the School of Engineering here in Dundee. That's me.
I think you forgot to add evil genius alongside that.
Yeah, I was going to share that, but I thought I don't want to scare everyone. So,
so thank you, everyone. Very exceptional. So let's get down to the topic: atypical leader and its impact on diversity and innovation. I would like to start with the definition of it, an atypical leader, just for reference purposes. And I found this very amazing definition. So an atypical leader is an individual who is rarely associated with leadership positions, originating from non-privileged, non-dominant, underrepresented, disadvantaged, or unusual demographic backgrounds. So women, ethnic minorities, LGBTQ or plus individuals, and individuals from lower social economic backgrounds. Another definition I found is innovators from the margins of atypical leader. So that's, to me, spells that there's a lot of people who actually fall into this category, especially now. So, but let's go through this and try and understand the kind of leaders that we're talking about. Why have they emerged? And how can they change the narrative, especially in diversity and also in innovation? Carol, tell me, please, what do you understand by, following the definition, what do you understand by the term an atypical leader?
So for me, from what I understand of it, it's a leader that doesn't fit the stereotypical norms of leadership, and that will challenge those stereotypical norms, which have maybe come about because of a lot of the systemic issues that we see around with regards to leadership today.
That's good. Ollie, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the atypical leaders, quite a lot of the things that you have mentioned, but one of the aspects that really strikes a chord with me is to do with cognitive diversity and personality type. And there is a tendency, particularly in industries that are predominantly male, such as engineering, there is a tendency to equate certain qualities like being aggressive or being assertive in the way that we typically describe it. There's a tendency to associate those qualities with leadership, and anyone who doesn't have those qualities or isn't one who is likely to confront, doesn't have that kind of personality, there's a tendency to think that that person is either weak or not a proper leader. And because there have been many successful examples, no doubt, the Alan Sugar type approach to leadership that's often been associated with, yeah, that's a leader. So for me, it's also about, beyond the sort of protected characteristics that we just spoke about, it's also about just personality type. And does this person and the way that they communicate and the way that they relate with others, can that person be a leader? I believe we will get to our full potential as a society and as an industry when we are able to see the leader beyond some of those more superficial ways of expression.
That's very interesting. one thing I understand is, good leaders have a lot of things in common, and you've just touched on some of the, I would say, not stereotypical, but the common types of definitions that you would find where people understand to be leaders. People who have an appetite for responsibility, willingness to invest their time and effort in fulfilling their mission, ability to mobilize energies, and having great intellectual and emotional intelligence, at least to an extent. But that's not always the case with an atypical leader. And an atypical leader might actually have all of those things, but might be just marginalized or from an underrepresented group, or not even having the opportunity to come forth, I believe. And I think we have a couple of atypical leaders among us and who are very successful. I'm going to jump to you, Ronnie. You are quite exceptional in the construction industry, being a Black female owning a multi-million-pound company. It's amazing because till today, most construction sites that you go to dominated by males. I only see females in the showrooms. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen, a huge gender diversity within the construction industry, and yet here you are excelling. Tell us about, if I may say, being different in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a danger, and we all know this, that people are put in a shoebox of what a typical leader is and what an atypical leader is. And that danger is what holds a lot of people back. So from a personal perspective, and we all know the stats, we know, in the construction space, 16% of the workforce is female. And there is, as far as I know, someone might find one and tell me about them, but I've not come across another Black woman in our industry, in the construction space, who runs an engineering company the size of mine. So I've not come across another one. And I think that's because of a number of reasons. One is it's the stereotypes. It's the stereotypes, not just in the minds of others, but also the stereotypes in our own minds, because they say that you can't be who you can't see. So because there's nobody there is that assumption that we cannot get to the very top. So you actually put a barrier and you put a glass ceiling there that actually shouldn't exist. So with regards to leadership, with regards to these terms, I very much say that I'm not one to be put in a shoebox. I'm not one to fit any stereotype. I'm a very unique individual, and that's the way that I like to be treated. And I think that's what enables you to push and propel yourself forward for that success, because nothing's holding you back.
I like your affirmation, and I think that is very key, because ultimately you are who you say you are. You are what or who you say you are, and the things you say to yourself, which is very good. You can't be put in a shoebox. And that's very good. And I think that's something that we should profess to ourselves more. It's something that we should proclaim on a regular basis. Because if we don't, what I find is you get very put off or put down by the events, the situations around, especially our working environment and the people we deal with on a daily basis. Brilliant. Jamie, you are not, you're an executive, but your journey hasn't been a normal one. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I actually started as a trainee back in the day, a trainee draftsman, and went to college on day release, only up to HNC level. So I'm not actually a chartered engineer. So what I had to do was really fight and get my elbows out to prove that I could, lead teams as well as engineers could. Because I think sometimes, technicians probably take a back seat in engineering companies. They don't face projects, they're not front facing. So to manage a team, it doesn't really occur at technician, drafting CAD level. So, I was very lucky in the companies that I worked for, is that, my MDs gave me the opportunity to run teams based on the personality that I've got to succeed and to see the company succeed. And I think that's really, you know, where I come from, is that, you know, you don't need to have a degree or be a chartered engineer to, you know, to lead a team of people and to lead a profitable business. You know, if you've got the skill set, you know, you can lead anybody to do anything.
If you've got the skill sets, you can lead anybody to do anything. That's quite true. But what if you're not given that opportunity? What if there's a lot of barriers that you would face?
Yeah, I think there's always barriers. There's barriers for most people. You know, within engineering itself. You know, it's not an easy business. But I think now leaders are becoming more aware of skills that make other good leaders, and so they can nurture that. You know, I'm aware of people in my team that are going to be exceptional leaders, so I can nurture their skills and show them what to do to make them better, to eventually, you know, be leaders in their own right. You know, you've got to be your authentic self all the time. You know, no matter who you are. You know, leadership's not for everybody, and we want good leaders, you know, running our companies. You know, we want good leaders running our teams. You know, so, you know, you've really just got to be authentic, and if you're authentic all the time during your working day, then, you know, you will be recognized. And if you're not recognized, the simple fact is, move somewhere where you will be recognized. You know, there's 100 engineering companies, 1,000 engineering companies out there. If you're not being seen, make yourself seen.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jaden. Talking about authentic leaders who have been recognized, Yewande, you are a chartered engineer, you are an innovator, you're also a speaker. You've worked with kids, you've helped STEM, promote STEM adversely across, I would say, the nation and beyond, not just here, but also in Africa. How would you describe being an atypical leader?
So I guess there are two parts to the expression atypical leader. There's the leader part, and then there's the atypical. And the leader part of it is something I've been thinking a lot about recently. I'm not sure that I don't know, I'm not sure if there was a point many years ago that I kind of went, you know what, I want to be a leader, or I am leader material. In fact, I was always happy to be part of teams, to make things happen, but with lots of people on either side kind of helping to move things forward. But then I've been really reflecting on what, you know, has probably taken me from the, you know, let's just work within a team to actually, hey team, this is the direction in which we are going to go. And it's been more of stepping into the role of leading, you know, towards progress, leading an idea, leading, you know, in terms of trying to move a vision from just an idea to something that is actually happening and bringing impact. And so it has felt more like a necessary part of delivering whatever it is that I've needed to deliver. It's felt more like, you know, a mechanism for progress as against, you know, an entitled position. It's felt like, you know, a bit of a huge, massive responsibility in some instances as well, because, you know, I've gone, you know what, if I don't do this, you know, how am I going to be happy that it's done? How am I going to get the assurance that it's actually going to happen? And so lots of people, you know, are called to leadership because of the vision, the mission, the work that needs to be done. The atypical part, you know, of the expression is I guess them working through the barriers and seeing beyond it. And just as Ronnie said, it gets to a point where you actually have to completely see beyond those barriers. You know, you have to allow yourself to imagine what is possible, and allow yourself to be completely immersed in what is possible, and start to drop some of those thoughts that stop you and stop lots of people from stepping into the role of taking that vision forward. Yes, so the atypical part works for leadership, because it's a bit of a, you know, a catalyst. You know, you feel like, you know what, I need to bring about change somehow, and I'm going to take on this massive role and this massive opportunity. But then the leadership part is not always given, but then, you know, people build it a lot along the way.
Yawande, I think you've just found a new definition to an atypical leader: catalyst leadership, or catalyst leader, I think. Because what you've just said is spot on. You found yourself in a situation where you wanted to lead teams, not lead teams, but participate in teams, thinking about the wider objective, trying to achieve it, either in, you know, as much as possible in a sterling and professional manner, and trying to achieve the best that you can among the teams that you're in. And ultimately, that has propelled you into leadership roles, which I think is, in the end, what makes us stand out, or at least what made you stand out within teams. And that's amazing. Carol, you have been the author of Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this has been an amazing book, and it's granted you so many awards as well. Can you tell us about how you can silently lead or be quietly visible? Because I know you run a podcast as well, and this is one of the key topics that is a focus for introverted women.
Yeah. Okay. So but first of all, there are many misconceptions about what introversion is, and what it isn't. And here in the UK, the US, and many other parts of the West and the world, there's very much a unfavorable bias towards introversion in the workplace. So introverted leaders are not necessarily considered as, or not necessarily valued, whereas certain countries, such as China, Japan, certain Nordic countries, they value introversion as a leadership quality. So introverted leaders will often feel that they have to put on a persona in order to get ahead as leaders and act extroverted. But then the danger of that is that they come across as inauthentic, and it also puts a lot of pressure on them and is stressful. So the best place to be, and it's been mentioned already, I think it was Jamie that mentioned it, is about being authentic, being their authentic selves, and finding their authentic voice, but recognizing, and this is the same for all leaders, when they need to adapt and modify their behavior in order to get the best outcome. And that is something that all leaders need to do, whether introverted, extroverted, or an ambivert, be able to recognize what style of leadership is required for a particular situation, and modify their behavior in order to get that best outcome. But it doesn't mean changing who they are in order to achieve that. And so it's recognizing what are the best ways in which they can get the outcome that they want as a leader, and whilst being authentic.
Spot on. One of the things that we consider in Transcend, which is the leadership training program that we offer at AFBE, is a leader should understand and know how to communicate and how to shift between different leadership styles, depending on who you're speaking to, the environment you find yourself, ultimately to get the best outcome. And from what you've said, that just reiterates it, but also confirms the fact that as a leader, you need to be aware on how to get the best outcome in whatever situation or project or environment you find yourself in. Interesting.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, that's why emotional intelligence is so important for leaders. And that's having that self-awareness as well that comes with being emotionally intelligent.
Indeed, emotional intelligence. My wife says I don't have any, but I hope I do. I think maybe it's because when she speaks a lot of times I just blank out. I think this happens to a lot of men, but I'm not sure. So I'm just speaking for myself here. Ollie, why do we have atypical leaders today?
I thought you were about to ask me if I blank out as well. I think that one of the reasons why, well, I don't know that we have developed as a society and as an industry an inclusive enough culture to really see the leader in people who aren't typical. And I think that is something that I think is a challenge for the industry and something that we could be doing a lot more of. And actually one of the joys that I've experienced as a leader is being able to see in the people that I work with abilities that sometimes they don't yet see in themselves, because ultimately I believe a leader should be a magnifier, not an eclipse, if I'm to use that as a, they're really not there to demonstrate that they are the smartest person in the room. Good leaders surround themselves with people who are smarter than them. But I think that one of the reasons why we are starting to have this conversation is that we're starting to realize that there are many challenges that we face as an industry, challenges that we face as a society. And we're starting to understand, seeing some good examples of people who are not what you might call the stereotype, who are making massive differences. I will use a good example of that is Greta Thunberg. She is a very young lady, but she is also a leader, and she's a leader of a huge movement. It just happens that she also happens to be autistic. But quite a lot of those qualities, including the autism, actually are enablers in what she's been able to do, because in many ways she refers to it as a superpower. She is able to blank out quite a lot of the criticism perhaps that comes to her, even though she's just a really young girl. So I think that one of the reasons is that we're seeing some good examples of leaders who aren't typical, and we're starting to understand the importance. My favorite word, and I say this all the time now, I talk about it as if it's part of my own native tongue, is the word Ubuntu, which is the idea that we are all kind of part of a whole. I am because we are. And when we lead from that perspective, we draw out the leader in others. And for me, that's the important thing. The optics don't matter so much.
From what you've said, do you think there is a huge unconscious bias in play in finding leaders amongst our ranks?
I think we all run the risk of, we all have prejudices and we all have biases. We're all natural statisticians. When we look at things, we assume a type when we see people, and it doesn't matter. It's not a thing that's specific to any race or any gender. We're all at risk of that. And the moment we kind of realize, one of the important things to think about whenever we're looking at other people and communicating with other people are two things: knowledge gaps and perceptive filters. We all have filters by which we view others, and life should be a process of discovering what these filters are. It's like when we talk about diversity and inclusion, and we talk about getting more people into the conversation, what we're saying is not that we're compromising competence just so that we can get other people in. What we're saying is we're removing all the filters by which we view others so that we're actually seeing talent. It's a search for true leaders and true competence that should drive diversity and inclusion. So I think, yes, there's certainly that bias or perceptive filters by which we look at others. And the way to progress, the way to discovering more of these atypical leaders is work out what those filters are and not be too embarrassed or ashamed to get rid of them.
Amazing. So taking out our filters, taking out our blinders so that we can identify exceptional talents, leaders who are amongst our ranks, who will be from underrepresented groups, who are from, almost, I would say, less privileged environments, or at least have come from a disadvantaged environment.
That's right. At the risk of spending a little bit of time, I'd say one more thing. Within engineering organizations, we have a culture whereby we find the best engineers and we reward them with leadership. But quite often, just because they're a good engineer doesn't make them a good leader. And so that is something else that needs to change within our sector, particularly within engineering, if we are going to run our organizations better. And you can just see it all the time, these decisions that are made because only a certain group of people are in the in-group, and it leads to problems within the business.
Beautiful. Thank you, Oli. For the audience, if you have any questions, please just post it in the chat group and I will pick it up and ask our guests. So Ronnie, is respect a necessary part of being a leader? You are a CEO, you have a company. Would you work with people or would you lead people who don't respect you?
I'm sure you know the answer to that question. I mean, you can't, I mean, even if I wasn't a leader, even if I was, you know, at the bottom of the food chain, I'd still expect respect. So I think it's absolutely impossible to lead a team that don't have respect for you, because that team will lead, you'd only be leading that team to failure. So it's absolutely important for me within my team, within my company, that everybody has mutual respect across the board. A point that I do want to make, though, is, as we talk about leaders and what leadership actually means, is understanding that not everyone is a good leader. There are good leaders and there are really, really bad leaders. So I think what we're focusing on is how we develop the attributes of what a good leader is. And it's really important that that's what's focused on rather than what's typical and what's atypical. Because the danger there is that there is an expectation that a typical leader is somebody who is very, very strong, is very confident, knows exactly what they're talking about, knows exactly what to do. And that possibly holds people back because you think, I need to tick all these boxes to be able to lead a team. Actually, what you find is that a leader is somebody who's able to work together with a team of people to success. So a lot of the time you have a team that may actually be more experienced than you. You may have parts of that team who are stronger and more confident than you. Actually, by being a good leader, you're able to bring all of those attributes together, all of those people together towards success. So again, like Ollie said there, not everybody has the attribute to be a leader. And it's important that you fit into a team, in the position in a team that best suits your skills, rather than thinking, you know, I need to lead a team. What suits you in terms of your skills and your passion? Not everyone is able to be a leader. But certainly a good leader is somebody who is able to listen and work with a team in order to achieve success. A leader is not a boss. It's not somebody who cracks the whip and tells people what to do. It's somebody who listens, who works together with people, who has empathy for their team, but who is able to lead a team to success, like I said before. So hopefully that answers your question. But yes, absolutely, respect is paramount, irrespective of where you are in the team. Sorry, I think I went off on a tangent there, but there you go.
That's all right. I think I read an article or an interview that you were on a while ago. I can't even remember the name. But one thing I do remember was, I remember you saying you walked in, you were the chair of a meeting, you walked in, and all of a sudden they're asking you for coffee, and you're supposed to be the chair. Now, where I'm driving this question to is, being a Black female CEO in construction, how much of an impact have you had on diversity within the construction industry? Do you have an idea? And what are you doing towards it?
Okay, there's my call to action. So look, I didn't dream that I would be where I am today. I'd be lying to you if I said, yeah, I had this plan, I was going to be this, and I was going to be named most influential woman in construction in the country, and I was going to have all these. I couldn't dream of this 20 years ago when I was a young engineer. Absolutely not. And the key reason for that is that when I looked across the room, there was nobody at the top that looked like me. So when you ask the question, how am I going to change this? And that is me being in this position, having an impact. Well, the only way I can make an impact is to be visible. And as much of an introvert that I am, I know that I've got a job on my hands to be that person that demonstrates that it is possible to be a typical leader and still achieve success. Even though I don't like that statement. I don't like that statement because I don't like to be put in a shoebox. But I have to be visible. I have to demonstrate to both sides to those who stereotype and put people in a box, for every time that I walk into a room and somebody is surprised that I run an engineering company, it means that the next person they meet who looks like me, that surprise factor isn't there. But also for those who are coming after us, who can look ahead and look up and say, I can do it, because, you know, Ronnie has done it, or Yolande has done it, and, you know, Carol's done it, and all of these women that have come before me have managed to achieve success. So visibility is key.
Thank you very much. Visibility is key. And that's one thing that I think we need to be more conscious about. Far too often when I speak to engineers and I ask the question, why haven't you taken an opportunity to become asset lead, or, you know, OIM, something significant, or why haven't you pursued such opportunities? And what they say to me is, I want to be invincible. They just want to do their work, get paid, handle their family, and that's it. They're comfortable.
Yeah.
So visibility is key.
It is key. I've just got to come back on that. You know, some of us have children, some of us don't have. Well, you know, we have families, we have nieces and nephews, and we have friends who have children. We have the future. You know, when we think about sustainability, yeah, we think about the future, not just about the now. This isn't about us anymore. This is about people who are coming after us. And irrespective of how you feel about being invisible, irrespective of where you are in your careers, there is always somebody that you can pull up. So this is not about you. And we've just got to stop thinking about just ourselves. And I want to be invincible. I want to progress in my career. And if nobody sees me and I can do that, it isn't about you. You need to come out and be there for others, so that our children do not have to go through these challenges that we've had to go through, so that our children do not have to deal with the stereotypes and the barriers, that we don't have to have these conversations in 20 years' time, because this is no longer an issue. So it's not just about us anymore. And that's what drives me. And I'm sure that's what drives everybody else that's having this conversation today. It isn't about us anymore.
Indeed. Yawande, Ronnie, thank you very much for your contribution. That was amazing. Yawande, you've had an impact. I say this with all confidence, that you've had an impact on innovation. You've been out there. You've been hosted on TV channels, and you've made it such that young girls look up and say, "Oh, okay, I want to be like Yawande." You know, how or what more can we do to change the dynamics of innovation, especially with the huge, diverse talent that we have within the society that we belong to? Because there's huge, diverse talent, but they don't have that opportunity to come up. They don't have that opportunity to emerge. They don't even have the opportunity for their voice to be heard. How can we change the narrative within innovation?
Oh, that's a great question, and actually probably the summary of my week so far, because well, I guess I'll start with the fact that we need to start to look around to see what is possible. I call myself the queen of partnerships, because I am literally ready and willing to partner with anybody who is going to do something positive about the diversity of people that are pretty much redesigning our built environment. The people who get funding, for example, to be able to come up with ideas that are really suited to everybody, irrespective of where you're from, within the UK and beyond. And so if I just use yesterday as an example, I've got, involvement with Westminster, the University of Westminster. The University of Westminster, as you can imagine, is such an energetic educational institution, in that there are lots of people from in and around London. It attracts creatives. You walk into one of the buildings and it's got people from different countries. There is a massive, massive, massive energy because there are lots of people from different places. I've also got my Innovate UK hat. So yesterday, I worked with the CEO and the senior executive team and the leadership at Westminster, and we created an event. We tagged it Inclusive Innovation. Members, the CEO of Innovate, Indra Mukherjee, and some of the senior exec went over to Westminster. They sat down with the students and with academics, the academics who are, you know, a great representation of the diversity that we want to be seeing in our innovation space, really poured their hearts and told Innovate UK everything that wasn't working, what was working, what needed to, you know, be included in some of the grants, and the grants a call for proposals that really would start to attract and include as many people as possible. And literally after the day, I mean, I was so grateful because the Innovate team, you know, took notes. They've got lots of meetings and sessions to follow yesterday's, and we will start to see the impact. We would start to see programs, you know, being developed and shaped to ensure that they are more attractive to a diverse group of innovators. I think, you know, when you think about the big challenge, we need to be following through with intentional activities like I've just described. We need to be walking through those doors and going right up to government. I mean, Innovate UK is the UK's innovation agency. We need to be going to people like that and pulling them out. I mean, I think we're lucky that, you know, Indra, who's the CEO, is, you know, he's been very intentional about inclusive innovation from day one. We need to be able to connect the dots and take stakeholders into the spaces that they need to then be inspired to then do the right thing. We need to look for where there is existing interest and say, how can we make your interest impactful? How can we just take it from just a conversation to a program, to a funding cycle, right? To, you know, grant submissions, to products that are developed. How can we take it all the way through to the catapults? How can we then ensure that, you know, the businesses and the business ideas that come through all the incubators, for example, we start to look at scaling them up and making them a tangible, viable, you know, offering for the UK and beyond. This is the work that needs to happen. You know, when you really think about it, it's, yes, we can change policy, and yes, we can influence policy, but it's also about partnerships and connecting dots.
There's something that you said that has just stuck in my head. The only way is to go through. And we need to be going through some of these organizations and going to the top. We need to have our voices heard. We need to talk about the problems that we're facing. We need to talk about the opportunities or the lack of opportunities, especially with Innovate UK. It's very paramount that people of color or underrepresented groups are given an opportunity to, for example, get grants to carry on with their projects. I have heard firsthand of people who have had fantastic ideas, probably didn't put their ideas in a way that would be sterling enough for the judges to say, oh, I like this. But ultimately, these ideas had huge potential and huge opportunities, but just because of, you know, the manner in which the application was put through, they lose out on such opportunities. So it's good for organizations like that to be quite intentional on how they become either inclusive of other underrepresented groups within their application system or their reward or award system. Amazing. Thank you very much, Ewande. There's a question here and from Alice the Cook, and I'm going to direct this to Jamie. It says, atypical leaders, as mentioned, have not seen the leader in themselves. how do we help them lift that veil? Jamie.
Well, I think we just nurture people is what we do. I think as leaders ourselves, we can see leaders within themselves. I think we need to expose potential leaders to certain circumstances and just make them feel comfortable in taking responsibility, because that's all leadership is really, is taking responsibility for actions. You know, so I think making somebody comfortable, not telling them this is what you see, but actually nurturing it out of them. I think that's a way forward for somebody who doesn't realise they've got leadership potential to actually see if they want to go that way, because not everybody wants that as well.
Indeed, you're very right. So, Jamie, you host the engineering podcast series, and I think one of the aims of that is to project people's, I would say, success, or project what their achievements within the industry. How do you think that has had an impact on, well, in the industry in general?
Well, like anybody, I hope it's had a good impact on young people. You know, I know some of the podcasts have been used in classrooms and for lessons in schools. But you know, for me, it's about getting individual stories out there. You know, putting faces out there that people don't know, because if you're not in engineering, you don't know many engineers. You know, I mean, you know, if you look at Yuande, Ronnie, you know, what you know, school kid, university kid would have the chance to ask them the questions that I asked them. You know, how did they get started in engineering? You know, because there's a route for everybody, and until people understand, you don't just have to go to university. You know, there can just be a spark there, an interest there. You know, then you know that's what, you know, attracts people to our industry. And we need to attract more people to our industry, and not the people we've attracted for the last 30 years. We need more diverse people in. So seeing those faces and hearing those voices actually gives them a voice, you know, and it enables them to see, this is what I can be.
Thank you very much, Jamie. There's a question here. So do atypical leaders always have to shoulder the burden for driving change? I guess this is an example. I'm conflicted about assigning that responsibility. Carol, what are your thoughts?
No, I don't think that they should have to shoulder the burden for driving change. Often we find in organisations that it is the ones who are in the minority, they are expected to be the ones that become the voice for the rest of the people like them. But I don't think that it is, not everybody has the abilities or the desire even to want to be that voice for others in their group. So I don't think that they should be the ones that have the burden for driving change. I think that all leaders have a responsibility for driving change, and all leaders need to take responsibility for driving change as well, not just leave it down to the individuals who may be the atypical leader, or maybe different to the norm, or different to the dominant group, to be the ones that are driving change.
Thank you very much, Carol. Ollie, so an atypical leader can be regarded as an insider, either occupying a privileged position, or an outsider, not fitting the dominant group and culture. So how, I think my question here is, when your leadership status is questioned, how do you handle it?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of is an interesting question, and it comes to, back to this question around respect. And I think of the word respect, and I remember I've had a number of interesting conversations, and I think of the word respect, instead of the word respect, I think of the word trust. When I respect someone, I'm effectively saying I trust a number of things, including three things. I trust their competence, I trust their judgment, and I trust that they are what they say they are, in other words, that their integrity. And those three things are things that any leader has to earn. They don't get given to you. So a huge part of leadership is actually the doing bit. And I often chuckle sometimes when someone's leading a team and they are like, you know, those tennis balls that, those machines that tennis players use, where this machine just
Pops up,
throws out balls for the person. And they're like one of those. It's just, it's not tennis balls, it's instructions. You do this, and you do that, and you do this, and you do that. And it's instructions going left, right, and center. And actually, a huge part of leadership, I believe, it's actually doing the work. It's actually being able to, role modeling is a huge part of leadership. And I think that sometimes I tend to think in analogies, and I think of leadership as a flame. And I think about other people that kind of walk with you, catching just a little bit more of that flame. So just touching on the question that you asked Carol earlier, I think that sometimes, especially when you're starting something new, it can feel lonely. It can be a lonely place, and it can feel like you are shouldering perhaps more than you should usually need to. Just as long as it takes for others to maybe see where you're coming from and walk alongside you. But it should not continue that way, because real success comes when everyone catches it and it becomes a jointly owned vision, jointly owned concept.
Thank you very much there. Respect. Somebody in the audience has asked the question, how do you then manage a team with a few people who refuse to show respect to other teammates? This question I'm throwing out to anybody who wants to answer this.
I'll have a go at answering that one. So as Ollie's talked about, is that respect has to be earned. So what I would suggest is, well, look at, are the team members that are not being respected, are they doing something that doesn't deserve respect? Are they not earning respect? If it's the case, well, you know, that isn't the case, then is it down to those team members who are not respecting their other team members? What is the reason behind that? And so it would be a case of sort of doing a bit of digging to find out, well, what are the reasons behind why they are not respecting their team members? Are their team members being disrespectful so that they're not earning that respect? Or is it that the team members that are not respecting others, have they got certain biases or beliefs about their team members which are inappropriate and helpful? So it's going to be a case of talking to them and finding out, well, what is going on, possibly doing some team bonding so that you can get them working together as a team and breaking down those barriers.
Okay, thank you very much. Working as a team to break down barriers. Joy, I hope that answers the question.
Can I say something very, very quickly?
Yes,
if you are, the leader also has to go on a journey, right? There's some things that don't come naturally to us. Most people know me for a long time, know I actually don't really like confrontation. And for me, I had to learn that there are times when you have conversations, uncomfortable conversations, and that regardless of your style of leadership, I think is an absolutely necessary part. Having those conversations where everyone doesn't come out smiling, but hopefully doing it in a way that doesn't compromise who you are as a person. But it's important, I think, that there are times when you do need to have those uncomfortable conversations. And a huge part of the courage that it takes is actually having those conversations, knowing sometimes that it won't necessarily end the way you want. And that's been a harder lesson for me. That's been a tough lesson for me to learn, because if you don't, it just blows up later on down the line. So
indeed. Thank you very much, Ollie. So final question, and this I'm going to throw out to each of you. What can organizations do to nurture the potential of an atypical leader? Yawande, you look like you want to answer.
I was like literally that question is, the organizations need, I think it's very much connected to an organization's inclusive agenda, you know, and there's lots of organizations, especially in our industry, that really need to go on that journey, who need to take everything apart and then build it back up in the right way. And there are organizations who have the right elements and just have to kind of shift things into the right shape and form to allow themselves be more inclusive. Yes, so I'd say the organizations that need to pretty much just go, actually, we're starting from scratch, right? Need to look at their values. They need to look at their ethos. They need to look at, their history as well as their future and their vision for the future. If their values tell them that over the years, those values that they think are the right values have only literally just stayed on their website and it hasn't really translated into anything within the organization, then they need to start to look at intentional activities around values and culture change. And that is a big, massive job. It's a big, massive task, because you are pretty much trying to get people to unlearn ways of doing things. And you're going to have to get rid of some people as well, because some people would be so adamant in their ways and so set in their ways. You have to look at proper disruption. I've come across this within organizations, and I go, actually, you know what, you are going to have to disrupt the way you operate as an organization, to really ensure that you're building with the right culture. That then forms the foundation, right, for identifying, different types of leaders, being inclusive, being diverse, because there would be systems and mechanisms in place to first identify those people, and then support them in their journeys, and then give them all the training, the opportunities for self and personal development, as well as spaces to really flourish. Those are the mechanisms that without you putting them and being intentional about putting them in place, it would be almost, impossible to claim to be an organization that is truly inclusive and truly embracing of an atypical leader.
Yawande, very well said. The culture, the ethos, the values of your organization, and all of this fits into the whole talent management approach. How do they identify the talents and how do they nurture them? Very important. I think that's one of the key things that within AFBE we focus on, and that is working with all our partner organizations to help them understand where they are at on their DE&I journey, within their culture, within their organization. We help them to evaluate that whole process, which is one of the key things. And that's why I like being part of this organization, just because of the forward-thinking, proactive approach that we are using towards helping companies to either actualize and change some of their previous known established values, and helping them to adapt into a new culture. Thank you very much. I'm just aware of time.
Could I quickly just add something on to what Yawande has said, Roy?
Yes, please,
in terms of organisations, what they need to do, they also need to create environments where people feel like they belong and that they feel psychologically safe as well. If they're to truly have inclusion, people need to feel like they belong, and they need to feel psychologically safe as well. Psychological
safety, that's key.
Can I just to add to that, I think organizations need to understand. I mean, it's very broad when you say organizations, because companies, a lot of us around this virtual table do a lot of work in speaking to companies. And when you put an organization in a shoebox, you find that with some organizations, they have all the policies and they have all the systems in place, but actually how is that passed down to people who are actually on the ground? And that's the key issue, is that training and education of individuals who are actually delivering and leading these teams or promoting these people. So, you know, Yande's answered and Carol has answered that really, really well around the organization piece. What I really want to say here as well is that it's not just the organization. And I do a lot of work with people as individuals. I think it's very important that as individuals, that we also have confidence to speak up. We have the confidence to believe in ourselves, because the bottom line is that as an individual, if you do not believe in yourself, irrespective of what systems the organization has in place, the chances are that your progression will be limited. So it's about believing in yourself and pushing forward for those opportunities as well. So that's dealing with the individual piece. Then obviously as a company, as an organization, their systems and the values and the cultures, and without repeating any of the things that have been said, absolutely agree with that. But individuals need to really focus on their own confidence and putting themselves forward. And if you work in an organization who hold you back, who don't promote you, who, you know, when you have spoken up, they still don't recognize you, then it's time to get stepping and move on. So that's my piece.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. Jamie, I'm going to give you and Ollie an opportunity for last piece on the question that was asked.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what's been said by you know, Yewande, Carol, and Ronnie. You know, and I think also as the talent pool grows in the underrepresented groups within engineering companies, which is what we're all here to do, is promote engineering to younger people, and hopefully, you know, that talent pool will grow and grow. It'll create more opportunities for underrepresented groups as well to get picked out and to get noticed and to get seen, because you know, we're just going to have more and more people who are available to pick from. Thank you very much, Jamie. And Ollie?
I will just very quickly say that for any organization looking for change, there are a number of things that we just need to think about. We need to be candid about where we are, and Yewande kind of articulated that perfectly. We need some consistency so that those things that we do aren't one-offs. We're actually constantly working and ensuring that we have an environment that encourages leaders. And we need coherence so that any work that we're doing ties into the values of the business and exactly what the vision of the business is. They're not this thing that you do on the side in order to help people. It all ties in to help the business succeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ollie, Yewande, Ronnie, Jamie, and Carol. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time today. And thank you to the guests as well for attending this AFBE Leadership Talk program. If you haven't heard about AFBE, please visit our websites on afbe.uk. We have a lot of programs that can help you on your organization, on your diversity journey, but also promote engineering, promote STEM, and help kids to actualize their potentials as well in engineering. Thank you to everyone who's been able to make it today. Next year, 2023, which we're looking up to, I usually don't have a talk program in January, but seeing 2023 is going to be, let's say, an eventful year, considering the economic challenges that we're facing right now. We want to be positive in 2023. So we're going to start 2023 with a coaching session, and I'll be having a coach on a call, and we'll be talking about new year, new beginnings, elevate your career in 2023 with Coach Buki. So we'll look forward to that in January. Adverts and flyers will be put out very soon on that. So thank you very much to everyone.
Roy, George on Saturday.
Yes, and the kid from Peckham. We have one of the transition talks on Saturday where we have George Mafidon, and he'll be talking about his background and where he has been able to achieve success till today. George Mafidon, the kid from Peckham. Please check our websites and our LinkedIn pages to register for the events. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely Christmas and a happy New Year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.